Good afternoon. Dear friends, on behalf of the family, I'd like to welcome you and thank you for your sympathy and your presence and your kind support as we gather today to celebrate the life of Philip R. Sticksel. This was written by Erica. Dr. Philip R. Sticksel, Grandpa, 90 and a half, of Delaware and formerly Westerville, passed away peacefully at his home Wednesday, October 28, 2020. He was surrounded by his family who loved him. Born on February 15, 1930, in Cincinnati, Ohio, to Cleveland and Daisy Sticksel, he was raised in Newtown, Ohio. Philip graduated from Terrace Park High School, furthering his education between Cincinnati, Worcester, and Rice universities. He proudly served his country in the United States Army, where he studied rockets stateside. After his service, he earned his doctorate in meteorology from Florida State University. Phil was an inquisitive man, which led him to working at various jobs from state to state. He worked for the Environmental Protection Agency as he developed protocols to prevent factory pollution. He loved his job at Battelle in Columbus, Ohio, where he worked for 25 plus years before his retirement. He loved to volunteer his time at Longfellow Elementary School, where he inspired many students to further careers in science. In his free time, you could find Phil in his referee blacks on the sidelines of the Wassa soccer games, checking to be sure all was going well and that each game was well manned. Phil was an extremely hard-working and dedicated man to anything he committed his time to. He loved to travel, to study the weather, attend operettas, and was a huge fan of the Cincinnati Reds. He was extremely cheerful and personable man that did not know a stranger. Phil made friends everywhere he went, and if you were lucky enough to have ever met him, you knew you had a friend for life. Phil is preceded in death by his parents, his wife Anna Sticksel, and his grandson Nick Contreras. Phil is survived by his daughters, Rosalind, married to Ralph Reese, and Kirsty, married to David Contreras, numerous grandchildren and great-grandchildren. Only having met Phil a few times, I remember him as a man who loved to get to know people. He was really interested in anyone with whom he spoke. I'm sure he left an impression on all who knew him. He was also a man who could laugh and enjoy himself, who could smile and give his presence to anyone. At this time, I'd like to give the opportunity for anyone who would like to share memories of Phil to please come to the microphone and speak. Let's remember together our favorite stories of Phil. And we do ask that you would come and use the microphone because this is being recorded for the family and so they can reflect back on these memories and enjoy them again. This is also being simulcast online, so for those who could not make it, it would be nice if they could hear the stories by being at the mic. Who would like to share?
Thank you for coming. Is it on? Oh, okay. Oh, okay, thanks. Oh, yeah, there it is. Okay. Well, for those of you who did not know my dad, which is probably no one in here, but anyway, I like to compare him to Fred McMurray, who in the movie Absent-Minded Professor, the movie starts out with the professor enthusiastically working in his basement to create something new. He actually ended up creating flubber, but he works through the night and you know, is very focused on the whole thing. Well, you find out after, when the next morning arises, that he kind of forgot that he was getting married in the morning. So it's just typical of my dad. He'd get enthusiastic about things and he'd forget about everything else. And he'd just go at it. So, as growing up, I learned to always take a book or something along with me, because if Dad was picking me up, he'd always be late. Basically, my story with Dad starts in Florida, where I was born. He was going to FSU as a meteorology student, going for his PhD. It was the parts that I remember about it, of course, are going with him to set up weather balloons, and it would start out on just this flat thing on the ground, and it would just grow and grow, and it would be huge. Of course, a 4-year-old brain, huge doesn't take so much, but it was a big balloon. And after it got enough air, it would take off, and then we'd run inside, and we'd go and look at all the dials and everything, and the little lines, tracing out stuff, and I had no idea what we were looking at. He'd explain it to me, but I still had no idea what I was looking at. But it was just so fascinating. And at Florida State, he did his dissertation on upper atmosphere ozone storm.